Using conditionals in a Jenkins Declarative pipeline. Here's today's starting point. I have the Jenkins LTS controller, version 2.319.1. Attached to this controller, I have a Linux-based agent. Also, there's a sample repository associated with this video. The link to that repository is down in the description. So let's go take a look at the repository. And what we're going to start with is Jenkins file -1. And what we can see here is we're going to have two stages, an example build that's just echoing out hello world, and then only when we're on the main branch are we going to say echo deploying. Now, this repository actually has two branches. It has main and it has feature 1. So let's go back over to our controller and create a new item. I'm going to call this job-1 and multi-branch pipeline, so we get all of the branches. And we're going to say add source get. I'm going to copy the link to my repository. And I'm going to change my by Jenkins file to Jenkins file -1. And let's go ahead and click on save. And what's going to happen is it's going to scan, find the branches for main and for Jenkins file 1. And let's go take a look at the job runs. What we have here for feature 1, we can see the job is still currently running at this time. So looking at job 1, we're still doing our clone. And almost there. We can see that we have echo hello world, but we can see the example deploy stage was skipped due to the when conditional. Now if we go back over and take a look at the main branch, what we can see is that the echo hello world was rendered, and then also we had echo deploying. So on the feature 1 branch, the deploying stage did not execute because we were not on the main branch. But when we were on the main branch, then both stages executed. Let's go take a look at our next Jenkins file. So if we take a look at Jenkins file 2, it's the exact same pipeline, except we've added in an environment check for deploy to being production. So this construct within the when directive means when I'm on branch main and the environment variable deploy to is equal to production, then and only then will this stage execute. So let's go back over to our controller, create a new job. We're going to call it job 2. And we'll go to multi-branch again, click OK. Let's add a source of Git. My project repository is going to be the same, but the only difference is we are going to say Jenkins file -2. Let's go ahead and click on save. It will go ahead and scan the repository for both branches. It finds them. If we take a look at job 2, both main and feature 1 are running. So if we take a look at main, we're waiting on it to actually get started because there we go. There is main 1. 1 is complete, but we can see here that the deploy stage did not execute. The reason why is we have not set an environment variable. If we take a look at feature 1, the same thing occurred here. This stage is completely empty. And if we take a look down here, we can see the example is exactly the same. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our agent. And we're going to set on this agent an environment variable. Now this is just one of many different ways you could set environment variables. You could set it in the Jenkins file itself. You could set it globally on the controller. But for this example, we're going to set it on the agent. So let's scroll down to the bottom of the agent configuration. I am going to say environment variables, add, and just to make this simple, I'm going to copy deploy to. That's the name, and the value is production. Let's go ahead and click on save. Now, since I made this change to the agent, I'm going to do a disconnect, and then I'm going to go ahead and launch the agent again so that the environment variable is loaded up into context. We're back connected. Let's go ahead and go back to job 2, and let's run main. So we'll say build now, and since we're on main, what we should see here in build number 2 is that the job ran. There's our first one, and then we have echo deploying. If we go back over to the feature 1 branch of job 2, then what we're going to see when we click on build now is the output, we have our hello world, but we're skipping the example deploy stage because we're not on the main branch, even though we have the deploy to environment variable set. Now let's go take a look at our third example. And for this example, we are using the beforeAgent condition. And what this means is we're first going to check if the branch is main. If the branch is not main, then we will not even get a handle to our agent at all. Now, if you have static agents, that's probably not such a big deal. But if you're spinning up Kubernetes pods for your agents, this could become a very big deal. So let's go back over to our controller and let's create job 3. So we'll say job 3. We'll go down to multi-branch, click OK. Add source, git. Our project repository is the same one yet again. And we're going to change our Jenkins file to Jenkins file -3. Click on save. It'll scan the repository, find our 2 branches. And then let's go and see what happens. First off, in feature 1. Now in feature 1, as it starts up, what we're going to see is that it skipped the example deploy stage. This is the name of the stage that we have for this job run. So what you'll notice here is there is no reference to any kind of agent here because we are not on the main branch. Let's go back over to job 3 and click on main. And what we'll see here is that we can see that we're running on agent 1 and we see the output of echo deploying. By using beforeAgent, we are able to speed up the processing of our pipeline because a connection is never made to that agent based on the evaluation of our when directive. And now let's go take a look at our last example. For this pipeline, what we have is a cron that's going to be running every minute. That's the 5 stars. And our when is being triggered by timer trigger, which maps back to our cron. For our main branch, we have the cron. But for our feature branch, if we take a look at it, we still have the same when triggered by timer, but there is no trigger cron included in the Jenkins file for the feature 1 branch. So what we would expect to see is every minute on the main branch, the job should run, and on the feature 1 branch, the job after the initial scan should never run. So let's go set this up and see what it looks like. Click on dashboard, new item, job 4. We will click over to multi-branch, click OK. Let's go over to our add source, git. Let's copy our URL and change our Jenkins file to Jenkins file -4. Now this time, after the scan, let's go first to our main branch. We can see here on our main branch that it's pending. Give it just a second to finish. So on the first run, when it did the initial scan, we can see that the example deploy stage was skipped due to the when conditional because during the scan, that was not a timer trigger. That was just the initial scan. So that's why it was skipped on that first scan. But if we go and take a look now at build number 2, we can see that it was started by timer. And then as the job arrives at the stage, now we can see echo deploying. Let's go over and look at feature 1. Feature 1 has only had one build, and this was during the branch indexing step. And because of this, because it's branch indexing and not a timer trigger, this stage was skipped, and this is due to branch indexing not being timer trigger. We've only scratched the surface in what can be done with conditionals in a Jenkins declarative pipeline. In the README of the repository is a link to the documentation for the when directive so that you can discover all of the different built-in conditionals available to you. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter @CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.